My name is Jonathan Gillum.
And this is The Experts. This is Jonathan Gillum, and this is The Experts on Facebook Live. And I'm having a few little technical difficulties here. My mouse just died there for a second, but we got her back up now. And it's going to be a good show. I was on Newsmax earlier with my good buddy Bill Tucker. I like to call him Trucker Bill. So that was a good time. And we had a lot to discuss today, and so I'm going to go over some of that stuff. And I'm assuming that this is on, yeah, there it is, on Twitter there. And this will be a good show. Hopefully I'll get some good comments from you guys. But a lot of little technical difficulties. We got it started on time, but my, for some reason, my iPad, now it picks it up. Okay, so now that's going. How many people think that Jared Kushner looked like he was going to go to daycare today when he had that press conference? I can't figure out what they're thinking by having these press conferences, but I guess we can talk about that. Let's do it. Boy, just a lot going on here with little technical glitches here and there, but we got it. Let me just make sure I'm live on everything. Okay, I know I'm live on Twitter. That's that. Looks like we're good on YouTube, and we have got 14 people watching. That's good. So make sure if you're on. Okay, so we'll do our nightly reminders here. If you're on Facebook, make sure that you share this. If you're on Twitter, make sure you retweet it. And if you're on YouTube, I don't know what you do on there, but here's the other thing. If you're not following me on Facebook and you're watching this on Twitter, go over to Facebook, like the page. And if you're on Facebook or YouTube and you're not following me on Twitter, go follow me. And then if you don't follow me on Facebook, we got to get the number, or excuse me, on YouTube, we got to get the numbers up there as well. So here you can hear New York's finest here. The sirens going by, that's the fire truck. So have you noticed, folks, I've been doing this show for well over a year. 9 o'clock, at least, I don't know, 3-4 times a week, maybe 4 or 5 times a week. 9 o'clock, 9 p.m., the fire trucks go a-blazing. I've been doing this for a year. You can go all the way back to the beginning of this show. Every night it was, well, at first, as crazy as it sounds, I know it sounds crazy, because I keep a clean house, but we would have a fly would get in here. Some, at first that went away, but every single night we would have something happen at 9 o'clock. We would have the fire trucks, ambulances, something would happen every night at 9 o'clock, not 5 o'clock, at 9 o'clock. So anyway, now that we got all that straight, the only last thing I want to talk about before I get started is, no, somebody just wrote on here, Donald Trump Jr. for 2024. We don't need dynasties in this country. We'll talk about that. I talk about that a lot. But, see, that's what is killing me. Let me just say this. Why do we need to keep electing people that have no experience in military and in law enforcement and in service to the country? We keep Trump doesn't have tiger's blood. Trump's a human being. The fact is, we are in the position we're in government because we hire people who want to be politicians, not people who have served the country, paid a price, understand critical thinking, and understand task organization, standard operating procedures. They haven't had to go through the stress of, I might fail. I don't want, for the next president that comes in, listen, I'm not saying anything bad about Trump. I think he's doing a fine job, except for not handling some of this stuff with this Russian thing properly. But Trump is there for a reason. Trump is there, as I've said over and over again, he is the temporary dam that has been put in place to halt the tide or the rolling of the criminal, organized crime, and communist rivers that flow in Washington, D.C. So he's there, but he's not just there just to hold the river back for a temporary amount of time. He's there, and he's giving us the opportunity, us, we the people, to organize, to unite, to have dialogue, and to do the things that we need to do until or before the next president comes in, whether that's in 4 years or 8 years. It could be a Democrat. It could be another conservative type of one of these establishment Republicans that do nothing for the people. So let me take a little sip of this. Yes, I'm drinking coffee. I'm finished with my book. I'm doing my first edit now. So I've been up all night, every night, going over these edits, getting these things done, and getting it back in so we can get this thing turned out as fast as possible. But as far as that goes with the government stuff and these leaders and these politicians that we get behind, and okay, I can't handle this guy anymore. And I'm going to block you if you're just going to come on and be some kind of knucklehead on Twitter. But the fact is, folks, as I explained today on Newsmax, I don't worship politicians. I don't put them on a pedestal. We hire them so that they will do a job. And it'd be no different than if I was back in the military and I was an officer and I got in there and I wanted to be an officer just so I could be in charge. Well, you don't become an officer in the military just so you can be in charge. You have to be somebody who understands what your job is in that position and what authority you have over the people that work for you, how they need you to provide them with what they need to do the job. You need to be able to understand what the job is, and you need to be able to, as an officer and a leader in the military, you need to be able to identify people that are part of the team, to identify the cancers and get rid of them. You need to be able to task organize what needs to be done so it gets done, and you need to standardize and streamline the tactics, techniques, and procedures that it's going to take to do those things. Now, that's called expertise. That's called somebody who is a leader. You're a motivator, you're a provider, and you're a manager. We don't see any of that in Washington, D.C. And the Trump administration, quite frankly, has had such a difficult time because only like 20% of his cabinet is in place. But the other problem is because two things. One, people like Jeff Sessions who come in and immediately recuse himself for if he's not done anything wrong. He's literally caused massive amounts of trouble just by not doing anything and allowing the Rosenstein, the acting attorney general, to collaborate with Mueller and Comey, and Christopher Wray is going to be coming to the FBI. This is unbelievable leftist collaboration that has been able to happen because of Jeff Sessions. So you see there, first off, the president's suffering because he's surrounded by all these establishment people on both sides that don't want to do anything but line their pockets and push their special interests forward. The other thing is that the president has put people in place himself that are not subject matter experts. Just because somebody is a general from the Army, or just because somebody is a deputy director in the FBI, does not mean they have the intelligence. It doesn't mean that they have the competency. It doesn't mean that they have the experience. Yes, I'm even talking about generals, McMaster, who to keep away from the Muslim Brotherhood. What the heck is wrong with this guy? But Trump put him in there because Trump's never been in government, and so he has to rely on some people to tell him, yes, this is the person. We don't need, if I was in there and if I could advise Trump, I would tell him, listen, the first thing you need is to get people around you that are not high-ranking political appointees and part of the Washington, D.C. scene. Yes, generals and admirals are part of that scene. And if he could do that and start taking advice and getting suggestions from people that are dirt dwellers, people that have been in the trenches, and people that are down at the ground level with the operators, he would be getting people that would be fantastic at doing these jobs. Most of these jobs are not that difficult. The issues that we have are not that difficult to figure out. But the problem is you have people that either have a political drive, a drive for power, to gain power, and that's what they want. They want themselves to increase, not for, and that's their whole agenda is, what can I do to climb myself up this ladder and become more and more important? And the last thing that's on their mind is, how do we fix these issues? It's just like advertising. It's just like anything else. You ever notice how car manufacturers come out with a car, like the very first Viper? Why do they have to improve on that thing? Man, they should just left that thing the way it was. But every year they got to mess with it a little bit and change this and do that, and eventually they screw the whole thing up. That's because designers don't want to work their way out of a job. They don't want to design the perfect car. Advertisers don't want to create the perfect ad that will run forever and ever, because that puts them out of jobs. And it's the same thing with Washington, D.C. And Trump is surrounded by these people. One, they're the ones that milk up to him, and two, they're the ones that milk up to him tell him to appoint this person to this and that. There's a whole other realm of subject matter experts in the government and in this country that literally, if they went to Washington, D.C., could have the majority of problems fixed that fast. I've got friends that are watching on Facebook and on Twitter that are former military or active duty military, and I guarantee you, if we took the health care, and they may not even be in anything that has to do with health care, but if we sat down with a couple of the officers that I know and a bunch of E7s and even some E4s and E5s, I don't know, and you said, okay, here's what we got to get. We got to get a health care bill. It's got to cover these people. It's got to come to this price, and or even better, we have a problem. Forget about the health care bill. You just sit down with these people and you say, listen, we have a problem. Not everybody has health insurance. Everybody's going to be sick at some point in time. Some people are poor. Some people are rich. You know, there's hospitals are big money makers. Insurance companies are big money makers. And we got a problem. We had a problem that, although the government is not and shouldn't be in the healthcare business, there is a need for people to be able to see doctors and be taken care of if they're American citizens, period. So how do we fix that? And I guarantee you, the officers that I know that are in the military, the E7s, the rest of the people, they could get together, it wouldn't even take them a year. They would have the whole thing figured out and fixed. If you told them that, you got to get this done in 6 months. Boom, they would do it. Because their job is mission success. Their job is to do what is, whatever task they're given, their job is to do it efficiently, as quickly as possible if needed, and to do it so that they have success, overall success in that mission. You just don't get that in Washington, D.C. And you're not getting in the Trump administration overall, not because of Trump. Because of this absolute cesspool that surrounds him. Let me see what you guys are saying. Hold on a second here. All right. Why don't we, you know what, Rick is saying over here on Facebook. Rick, I don't know how to say your last name, Rick. Vrasinja, maybe? Politicians should be veterans. You know, one thing about that, Rick, back in the day, it's interesting. After World War II, two things happened, okay? First off, around that era, something like 70% of all people in Congress were veterans. And a lot of Hollywood people were veterans, right? In 1947, they created the Secretary of Defense and politicized the DOD. At the same time, you started to see a decrease in the amount of veterans in service. And before long, over the years, since 1947, we have never won a war. We haven't. We won victories. We've gone in and done some stuff and then left. And there was nothing more to. I mean, do you think we won the first Gulf War? Yeah, we pushed him out of Kuwait. But what was that? We stopped him from invading Kuwait, and then we didn't deal with and even foresee the upcoming problem, even though Islam had basically declared war on us in 1979. We've never fought and won the war on terror. North Korea is still a problem. So there's been less and less veterans in government service to the point now where it's like, I think it's like 20% of all the people in government are veterans. And the DOD is so politicized now that the Secretary of Defense comes in and the only people they promote are people that are going to appease their political leanings. And then you got people like General Mattis, this quote-unquote Mad Dog Mattis. I don't know, what is he mad about? He's mad about that there's not enough transgender in the military. What has he done? What has he done so far? It's been 6 months. Why aren't we seeing a real shift? If he is so mad dog, why are we still spending billions of dollars on transgender operations and hormone replacement when we need ships redone, we need soldiers outfitted, we need to have a strategic war plan to defeat fundamental Islam and push it back to the Middle East where it belongs. So, trying to look what everybody's saying. What'd Becky say? Becky said something here. I don't know what Becky said. Becky's always saying something. So, yes, Liz, the enemy is within. And a lot of us have been saying that for a long time. That, you know, the only way you're going to be able to defeat this country or conquer this country, it's not going to be with guns. I mean, Anthony Scaramucci, who I'm not really fond of yet, he's got to be he said he pointed something out. He said that our country was something, I don't remember what the thing here. I'll look at it on Twitter right here. He put out a tweet a long time. He's gone back and gotten rid of all these tweets, by the way. He said that we, the USA, has 5% of the world's population, but 50% of the world's guns. Enough is enough. It's just common sense to apply more controls. Well, unfortunately, Anthony, the Constitution actually gives us all the ability to have weapons, and in fact, all these city governments and state governments that are keeping us from having our weapons are actually violating our constitutional rights. That's a whole nother subject. But the statistic that he brought up, that America has 50% of all the guns, you're never going to take over this country by force. The way you do is you go in, and I've been saying this since I started this show a year ago, you go in and you basically take over key political positions. You take over Hollywood. You take over the music industry, and then you add politics into that. You take over Nickelodeon. You indoctrinate kids for years and years. It's subversion 101. And that's what's happened. And that comes from within. Let's see here. We are going to go to the A block now. And then we'll talk about Jared. So, Julie, you're saying that that would take 100 years to do. What are you talking about, Julie? You're talking about take over the country? Because subverting a country, the way it works, I understand after studying it more and more now, is you get in there, you get certain things in place. It may take a long time to get people in place, to get the religion to be basically crushed in a country, where not crushed necessarily, that's a bad word, but to where people start to turn their backs on religion. It takes a good period of time to basically get people of influence in place, but it took hundreds of years before social media, computers, television, movie theaters, music industry. Now what you have is they literally have the ability to bring a country to its knees very quickly. And that's the problem, is that we have gotten to a place now where from inside we are just too heavy in certain areas. And as people continuously say every night on this show, there's going to be civil war eventually. And there very well could be. Can I be more specific about what, Nick? You got to tell me what to be more specific about. Let me see what else you're saying. All right, let's see here. Now, I was going to talk about Jared. I wish I had that soundbite for you. I don't have... I guess I could look it up here on Fox News. Hold on one second. Today's the press conference with Jared Kushner was so bad, folks. I mean, not that he came out and said anything drastically wrong, but it was... I don't know how that guy has gotten himself into the position that he's in. But let me pull this up real quick. I don't know why the president continues to play these games with the media. And why would you send Jared out there to talk? Two things about this guy. One, he has no command presence whatsoever. You're putting your family in a position where it's going to be dangerous. And the other thing is, they're just feeding into this completely made up Russian story. All right, come on, computer. There it is. Now I know why I've got a bad signal. I forgot to turn off my Wi-Fi. All right, let's see here. All right. I got it all set up. You guys get to see how this whole thing works. By the way, being at Newsmax today and I co-hosted for an hour today with Bill Tucker, Trucker Bill, and it was pretty amazing because I didn't have to do all this stuff. I had they have, their producers and all the great people there. The guy that produces the show, Michael, he's a former Marine and was in Fallujah. And so it's just really awesome being there with all these different people and not having to do any of this stuff. Just literally go in, put on the headsets, and they take care of the whole thing. It's pretty amazing. It would be great to have a show like that. Let's see here. Okay, here's the soundbite with Jared. Now, I made the joke that when I was on TV today, that when he got off the set, or done with the interview, and he was walking away, it looked like he was going to have a backpack and a lunchbox, because this guy's command presence. Look, I don't know if he's a nice guy or not. I don't know him, but you don't put people in front of the camera when they come off looking like this.
I did not collude with Russia, nor do I know of anyone else in the campaign who did so.
Fresh off the heels of his Capitol Hill appearance, Jared...
Yeah, let me fast forward it here. I want to hear what he's saying. Well, I guess that's all the soundbite we got there. So let me just play that again real quick.
His Capitol Hill appearance, Jared Kushner was adamant his 4 meetings with Russian officials last year were inconsequential.
I had no improper contacts. I have not relied on Russian funds for my businesses.
In this
Okay, this is what I understand, folks. If you've done nothing wrong, why are you coming out and giving these press conferences? Also, the faster the president fires Mueller and gets rid of him, the better off this whole thing is going to be. Because, as I've explained before, Rosenstein, who is the acting attorney general because Jeff Sessions recused himself for unknown reasons, Rosenstein has given full authority to Mueller, who is in cahoots with Comey and also the incoming director of the FBI. I mean, the president is getting himself in deep with these people. He gave Mueller the ability. So one of the people on Twitter says, fire Mueller, just lost all credibility. Let me tell you something, pal. Mueller's had no credibility. Mueller was nearly destroyed the FBI by trying to turn it into an intel agency, and he's a moron. So, but he's also in cahoots with all the rest of these people. These are all politicians. They don't run for office like the other politicians. They don't have elections. They go in and they schmooze and they work their way up and they kiss butts and scratch backs, and then they get themselves in these positions. They're politicians. They're some of the most dangerous politicians. So Rosenstein gave Mueller. Rosenstein is the longest sitting attorney in the DOJ's history. So he's been there through presidents, and he can play the political game. He gave Mueller authority for anything. That was the word he used, anything that has to do with the president. So he can go and look at all their backgrounds, their businesses, all these things. So they're either trying to play the media game, and they're trying to set themselves up as not doing anything wrong, or they just don't know how to play the media game. I don't know what it is. But this guy, Jared, first off, they shouldn't be up there. The appearance is bad. Nepotism is bad. It doesn't do us any good. We don't need dynasties. And when he comes out and speaks like that, all people do is they just make fun of him. That's it. Let's see what else. Yes, socialism is a joke. Yeah, McCabe, Becky. McCabe in the FBI, I mentioned him earlier, should be in jail. Let's see what else. What else did I say he was even going to talk about today? So, oh yeah. So I'm going to go to the next block here in a minute. I'm not going to do too long of a show tonight. Again, I don't know if you all have noticed this over the past year of doing this show. There's an ebb and flow about the media, and things will. So there's two or three things that happen here. So like days like today, a lot of stuff is building, but there's not. Those headlines haven't come to full fruition yet. So there's only so much that you can talk about on days like today, but it's coming. You can see it. On other days, there's just nothing to talk about. I mean, there is, but we don't have it in front of us. And a lot of these news agencies, they just don't report it anymore, because if it's not about something like CNN and MSNBC today, when Trump comes out and gives this speech, which for the first time in a while, he's actually coming out and saying exactly what he should be, that they lied to the American people about Obamacare, that they went against the sacred oath that doctors take. So I thought it was an incredible press conference, with the exception of the people that they had behind them. Look, I don't know who's choosing these people, and I'm just going to say it. Nobody else has said it. They could be the nicest people in the world standing behind the president, but come on, seriously, you got to get. If you're going to put people behind the president and give a press conference about health care, they don't all need to look like Mitt Romney. or Paul Ryan. It's like it looked like somebody cloned Paul Ryan and his family and put him back there. And heaven help that poor woman whose eyebrows were painted like a Nike upside down Nike symbol. I mean, I don't know if she was sick, and that's what the whole gist of them being there. I don't know, but when they have makeup artists, and I know they do in the White House, and they have people specially picked to put people behind the president, why would you create that image? Because it's just going to make – there were so many people watching this today where I was, and none of them were focused on anything but how white bread every single one of those person looked. None of them looked sick, and they all look like straight-laced Mormons up there. And that woman's upside-down Nike eyebrows. And it was – and I felt bad because she's going to be raked over the coals in social media. Whoever put them back there, I'm not saying they should be fired, but they're obviously they're not doing what they should be doing. That was bad. And I'm not trying to belittle her at all. I'm saying that they need to get their stuff together in that White House. I forgot where I was going with that. Okay, so that's what it was. Trump had this despite all that stuff behind him, he had an incredible press conference. And I thought what he said was real. But you turn to MSNBC and CNN, they're talking about the Russian story again. They're not even talking about the Obamacare stuff. They're talking about how his approval is demonstrable and all this stuff when Obama had worse approval, I think, or right around the same at this point in time. So, which brings me to the last thing I want to talk about tonight. Let's go to the B block. Now I got to get a picture of this guy. Since I'm going to talk about him, I got to put a picture of him up here. So give me just a second. Let me find a picture of Brian Stelter. Brian Stelter. Let me just tell you a little bit about this guy. We've gone over him before, and you're going to recognize him as soon as you see him. Let me see if I can copy this image here. Stand by. I'm doing all this as we speak. Let me add it to my. I'm producing and editing the show as we speak. All right. Stelter. Brian Stelter. I hope he watches this. Probably won't, but there he is. All right. I got a man. He's huge on the screen. Let's move that down here. Let's see here. All right. Well, there you go. There he is. Oh, he's a happy-looking little fella, isn't he? Brian Stelter. All right. Whew. That's some smile. Well, that smile should probably just be smacked right off his face because he came on today or this weekend. I guess he does a Sunday show about politics. This guy has never served. He graduated college. That's his claim to fame. Also, he's a dentist's dream. So he basically is a nobody, knows nothing, has done nothing except appear on television, and yet he's going to sit here and tell the world that Donald Trump's war on the media, as though Donald Trump has declared war on the media. His war, this according to him, his war on the media is detrimental and dangerous to the American psyche or public. Or I don't remember exactly what his quote was. Well, let me tell you something. Here's a little warning for you, Mr. Stelter, is that the American people are taking note of you and everybody else in the media that is, especially at CNN and MSNBC and the New York Times and all these other online publications where you just make stuff up. The fact is, Donald Trump never declared war on the media. The media has declared war on him, and he responded to that by standing up to you jerks. The fact is, the people are taking note of you. This is the same thing with the Facebook founders and the Twitter founders and YouTube and what's this guy's name? The one that owns the Dallas Mavericks. It's always on Shark Tank. That loudmouth. You know, all these different people that have so much money that they think they know what they're doing, that they're just really good at, like Bloomberg. He's really good at this, but yet he thinks he knows all. Mark Cuban, yeah, thank you very much. These people we're taking note of all of you, and you're becoming less and less credible all the time. You, Brian Stelter, you're not credible at all. I mean, you have no experience. I could take somebody who only went through boot camp in the military, has no college degree. They just suffered and sweated and said, I'm not going to quit, and learned inside of themselves who they are, what their soul says. Those people know more than you. I went through BUDS. I can't say the guy's name. That's SEAL training. The guy was 17 years old. First of all, he's a genius. I don't know if he's watching this, but he's a freaking genius. And 17 years old. I would listen. When that guy was 17, I would have put him out front and said, you lead us. You're in charge today. This guy was a remarkable young man with heart and soul, and wasn't afraid to look inside himself, and wasn't afraid to say, what is reality here? He wasn't stuck on being famous. These people in the news, like this guy, they are media whores. As I've said before, they're no different than a prostitute that goes out and parades herself up and down an avenue in some strange city, in the inner city or wherever prostitutes hang out, trying to get somebody to recognize them and pay them for sex. The only difference between those prostitutes that walk on the street and people like this Brian Stelter guy is that he wears a suit and has a big giant smile, and he has a paycheck that comes in. He gets paid to prostitute lies by the people that run the media corporations. He doesn't have to wait for a car to come by and for somebody to take him to a hotel. He does it himself every day on television, and on Sundays, evidently. He's got his own show. So the American people are taking notice of this, and actually it's happening all over the world. And when things change, you guys, you're going to be on the wrong side of of whatever is being received by the wrong side. I'm telling you right now. The American public isn't going to continue to stand for this. So, again, listen, I don't personally know this guy. I've been on set with him before when he's like sitting there eating Cheerios like a little 2-year-old while we're at the breaks. While the rest of us are trying to concentrate on what's going on in the story, which he had no business being on that story anyway. It had to do with the prison break up in upper state New York. I don't know what he had to add to any of that stuff, but I don't know this guy personally. He could be actually a nice guy. I don't know, but he's a liar. He's a person that's come out and said that there's a fourth branch, or he called it the fourth estate of government, that media is the fourth estate. There is no fourth estate of government. Listen, there's 3 branches of government: the legislative, the judicial, and the executive branch of government. That's it. And you know what the fourth, if you want to call it a fourth branch of government is? It's actually the first. It's we the people, not the media. I've said this over and over again. I'm going to say it again tonight. Freedom of the press that's talked about in the Constitution. It's talking about the printing press and the ability to disseminate information. It's not talking about these media whores. It's not talking about these people who will say and do whatever they can to appease their activism and appease their ego, and they think that they crazy. These Tommy Lahrens and all these young people that are out there, people like this guy, they go on and they appear on TV, and they literally start to believe that they know more than other people know, and they've never done anything. So I'm going to say this one more time. And Brian Stelter and the rest of these media people, they should seriously listen to what I'm saying. Hopefully, and God willing, there's never a civil war in this country. That there is no revolution, because we don't really need a revolution. We just need to go back to constitutional thinking. But if there is, you all are going to be on the bad end of the stick. and it's not going to be a good day. And if you think because you own a media company, or if you think because you're on the camera every day, or if you think because you got billions of dollars that you are immune to the rage of the American people, you're absolutely wrong. And all you have to do is look back at history and look at what happened to leaders and rich people and loudmouths and media people that stood on the wrong side when people's constitution and freedom were encroached upon. It did not work out well for them. That's my warning to you all. It's not coming from me. I'm just letting you know what I hear on a daily basis. And this whole nonsense about fake news on Facebook and on Twitter and how they're going to police these things. Let me tell you something. This nonsense about you calling this clickbait fake news, but at the same time you allow CNN on Facebook and on Twitter to just put everything they want on there and say whatever they want on there. And MSNBC can do and say whatever they want. And the papers that have been around for 100 years can do and say whatever they want. And when they do something drastically wrong and lie about the president and they get caught on it, you don't hear Facebook or Twitter calling them fake news. They just print a retraction and they go on about it, or they say something on a Friday night when nobody's listening and say, oh, yeah, we got this wrong. It's called lies. It's called unethical behavior. It's called un-American, and what you're getting yourself mixed into now, along with this extortion and this fake Russian investigation and all these crazy accusations and all these criminal and communist politicians, what you all are getting yourself mixed up in, and take note of this because we do see it. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, and all the online publications and newspapers that are out there. You have gotten yourself mixed up in espionage and treason. And it will not be forgotten by the American people if, heaven forbid, we ever go into a civil war. It will not be forgotten. You seriously need to think about this. Now, let's say that tomorrow I'm not on any of these networks or programs anymore because of what I said tonight. Let me get this knucklehead's image off here. I don't look, that's a CNN picture, by the way, in case somebody wants to pull it down. I'm going to give them full credit. If this ends tonight, I'll do something. I'll either take the show on the road again, and we'll just start going city to city, and I'll just start, driving around like some of the Hasidic Jews. I don't know who those guys are. They always drive around with that. I'm not saying anything about the Hasidic Jews that are bad. There's one group of people that drive around all the time with that RV, and they got the speakers, almost like the Blues Brothers trying to advertise something. Anyway, I'll go city to city if I have to and do this show. The fact is, there will be a day when we may have to find another way to do this. They may take this down, take it away from us. I hope that they don't. And I hope that Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Zucker and the brothers that run Fox News now, the Murdoch brothers, and all these people that run these different news agencies. First off, the problem is there's a vast majority of people are communists, and so I know I'm speaking to the wind here. But hopefully, for those that are not communists, those that are just they're flirting with globalism, they will realize that we live in a country that has a constitution that, now pay close attention to this, folks. Our constitution was written by men that owned slaves, but they wrote the constitution in such a way that it could not sustain any human being not being free. But it was written in such a way that those things had to be worked out. You either had to change the Constitution or they had to be worked out. And the Constitution was written so strongly and so perfectly, and the freedoms that God granted were put in there, and it was so perfectly done that over time That Constitution that was written 240 some odd years ago is the reason why the slaves were eventually freed and women got their rights and people that live alternative lifestyles couldn't be discriminated against. It's the reason that children don't work in sweatshops anymore. It's the reason, our Constitution, that when people come to this country and they're caught in this country doing something wrong, that they're not handcuffed and beaten. And yet, for some strange reason, you all want to change this Constitution. It's perfectly written. And I'm telling you, the people that run Facebook and Twitter and all these different things, you need to realize before you go down the rabbit hole and you can't come back from that point. First of all, that you're being played by people that hate the Constitution, that very piece of paper that allowed, for once in history, a change in slavery and understanding of freedom. I mean, think about that. You want to go against that? You want to say that it's a living, breathing document so that you can change it? Why would you want to change it? The Constitution, in effect, enhances life so that everyone can be free. So my suggestion is, for those that are seeking freedom, those that are planting seeds about constitutionality, those people like myself and others that utilize these social media platforms because for some strange reason the news media, including Fox News, have gone down a road where they don't use experts. They would rather use flashy people and put on flashy colors and flashy dresses and get in flashy arguments. They would rather use that than have people come on that are interesting to listen to. There has to be some entertainment value to it. But people that know the truth and are experts in their field, they don't do it. There has to be an alternative to that, and this is the only thing we have at this point. That and talk radio. And in talk radio, again, they like flashy things. So, I think that's about it. I'm going to eat dinner. Is Dave Robinson on here tonight, by the way? So let's see if they end up banning me. I got to get this guy's picture off my computer. I need to do a little, I got a thing I'm going to do for Brian. I'm not going to let off of Brian Stelter for a while. I'm going to be hounding this guy for a while. Trumpicana. All right. Anybody got anything else before I go to the Truth Zone? Racer X, you want me to come to Hooten? Where's Hooten? All right. We're still looking for a Sprinter van. Anybody has a Sprinter van they want to donate to the show, that is going to help out tremendously. And also, thank you to Karen today. She donated $500 today to the GoFundMe page. Remember, folks, I'm touched by every donation. I don't care if it's $10 or $500. Every bit of money that comes into this, it is going towards the continuation of this show. You don't see me leaving. I've been doing this show day in and day out. Sometimes I'm later. Sometimes I take Friday off because I got to concentrate on finishing this book. But I'm here, and I'm going to be here. And I'm going to go back out on the road soon. I have to get through these edits first so we can get this book knocked out. This book is going to help us out tremendously, I hope. But I want you to know, I don't care if it's $1, $10, or $500. It means a lot to me, and it means a lot to the American people, and it really does build hope, and a renewed hope inside my heart that I'm not just out here like some kind of weirdo doing a free show every night, like cable access, like some kind of Fruit Loop. I care about what I'm saying. I have the understanding and the experience, not only to pontificate on certain things, but also to go get the other experts that may know things that I don't. And you're not going to get that hardly at all anymore. So I thank you all for that. And Karen, thank you. And thanks to everybody who's donated throughout since last October, I think it was when I started this. And but don't stop donating. Tell everybody about it. You see the donation right there, gofund.me/The Experts Roadshow, and we'll get back out on the road. And but man, I can't thank you enough. I'm going to tell you this real quick story. It's hilarious. So my bed is about, I don't know, it's like 3 feet high. It's pretty high off the ground, maybe 3.5 feet. So last night, Game of Thrones came on. Wait, who's bothering Maureen on Twitter? I'm going to have to block you. Hold on a second. I'm going to tell you guys, stand by. I want to tell you this story. Who's bothering you there, Maureen? What is it with the porn trolls on this show? All right. Trumpicana about to get blocked. All right, so I'm going to tell you this story while I'm waiting for Trumpicana to run their mouth again. So my bed design is like 3.5 feet high. It's a pretty high bed. And I'm staring down here at the Twitter monitor, so that's why I'm not looking. And so I'm getting ready for Game of Thrones last night, right? I'm a big Game of Thrones person. And so I get Rico. Rico was asleep on the floor. I got my headsets because I like to watch Game of Thrones with my headsets on, so I get the full feeling of the sound. I get my pillows down there on the couch, and I'm ready to go. So I take Rico and I put him on my bed because he was sound asleep, right? The dog's 17 and a half years old. So I put him, and he just had a bad fall last week where poor little thing fell right on his nose, so I put him on the bed. I made sure he was asleep. He was sound asleep. I go turn Game of Thrones on. I'm sitting there, watch the whole show, and then some other show came on afterwards. And I was like, all right, I'm going to sit here and watch for a little bit longer before I go and start typing, which I typed this morning until almost 7 o'clock in the morning. And all of a sudden, I hear click, click, click because I got a doggy door that Rico can go in and out. And I look over because sometimes the wind blows it, and Rico comes walking through the door. I don't know how this little dog got off my bed. I don't know. He wasn't limping, so it didn't look like he hurt himself. It was like I was looking at a ghost. I didn't see him walk by me. Nothing. I don't know how he got. Anyway, I felt horrible. It's kind of like a confession for me because I had my headsets on. I wasn't listening, but I just figured the dog would sleep. I mean, look, he's a dog. They sleep. He's been sleeping this entire show. But yeah, he decided to go take a. I don't know how he got off that bed. I don't even want to think about it. Hopefully, he doesn't have any internal injuries from that. All right, let's. Somebody just asked on YouTube, what is a Leo? A Leo is a law enforcement officer. I'm still not seeing this Trumpican person here, so I guess I'm not going to have to block them. Okay. Do I have any good SEAL stories? I'll tell you a good SEAL story, and then I'm going to go. This has nothing to do with SEAL teams, though. It has to do with Ranger School. So, I've never told this story before. I'm going to have to tell this again sometime. So, I was in Ranger School. I went through Ranger School just before I got boarded and got my Trident. And it was in between SEAL Tactical Training and the board. And so I go to Ranger School, and 62 days of fun and happiness. For those of you that have been to Ranger School, it's not fun. You eat once a day and sleep an average of once a day, and you sleep an average of 2 nights or 2 hours a night. for 62 days. And, you know, I lost 22 pounds. I physically attempted to gain weight before I went there. I ate a ton and a lot of pizza and stuff so I could gain weight because I knew I was going to lose a lot of weight. People that showed up there, guys that showed up there muscularly ripped, were in bad shape by the end of that. They almost look like concentration camp victims. And they do that so that you will experience the fog of war through hunger and being tired. And so we would come in from the field after being gone for a week or two, and we'd come in, and they would have us go. Some guys had to sleep on the gray gravel. That stuff is horrible. We had to sleep on that sometimes. But normally we'd go behind the instructor's hut, and they'd say, okay, go to sleep. Sometimes we'd just be walking down the road, and it'd be 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We hadn't slept in, you know, like 36 hours, and they would say, get in the ditch and go to sleep. So we'd all just roll over into the ditch, and, you know, we'd be asleep in a matter of minutes. But in this one particular night, we all go back behind the instructor's hut, and I guess this was pretty early on because it was at Fort Benning, so there was probably I don't know, maybe 100 and something people that were in the class. And so what we do is we set, because when you're in from the field, maybe you'll get 5 hours of sleep that night, and so they give everybody a watch. So your watch is only 5 or 10 minutes long. That's it. Right? That's all you got to do. You got to wake up. The guy that wakes you up has to make sure you awake. You awake? And you say, yes, I'm good. I'm awake. And then they go to sleep, and you stay there and stay awake, because it's very difficult because you're extremely exhausted and your energy level is depleted because you're not eating enough. So 10 minutes you're awake. You wake the next guy up, and you look at him and say, are you awake? And they say, yeah, I'm awake. Okay. And then you go to sleep. So having already been through all this military training that I'd been through, I would take my clothes off when we were in from the field. I would take my boots off, put the laces out, take my socks, put them inside out, because we only had 2 pairs of uniform, so 2 pairs of everything, with two pair of socks, 2 pair of underwear, T-shirt, and so on and so forth. So you had to utilize these things for a long period of time before you wash them. We didn't take showers or baths for 2 weeks at a time. So you'd turn your socks inside out so they could air out. And I would take my BDU shirt off and lay it out or hang it up on a limb, and take my BDU pants and do the same thing with them. And this is something that's probably too much information for you all, and Jesse Ventura has been asked this question before. They asked him if he wore boxers and briefs. He said he didn't wear either because he's a SEAL, and SEALs don't wear underwear. Well, there's a reason why we don't wear underwear in the SEAL teams, because if you're diving, and when you're going through SEAL training, it's horrible because you get all rashed up because you don't wear underwear because it has elastic, and elastic has petroleum in it, and if you're breathing pure oxygen, which we do when we're diving, and that comes in contact with anything that has petroleum in it, it can burn. So I took all my clothes off, and I wrapped up in my whoopee, which is like a camouflage blanket, and I'm laying and I fall asleep, and I got up and did my watch for 10 minutes and got the next guy. I went back to sleep, and my clothes are hanging up there, my boots are laid out, the tongue is out, the socks are out, everything's drying. T-shirt's right there. I'm wrapped up. And, when you're that tired, time and space means nothing. So I'm sitting there and, or sound asleep. And the distance I could hear something. And I didn't know if it was a dream or what, but I could hear somebody yelling. And then I woke up and I looked around, and everybody but me and maybe a couple other people were in the lean and rest position. You're in the push-up position. And I'm like, what? I was totally confused because I was in such a deep sleep. I was totally confused as to what was going on. And then I realized we were getting in trouble. So I get in the lean and rest position. I got my whoopee around me. And so he's screaming at us, the ranger instructor screaming at us, the RI, and he's like, well, push him out. And so we're pushing him out. What happened was somebody inevitably missed their watch. and they didn't come and get the RI when it was time for everybody to get up. And of course, he makes up a story saying that he wasn't woken up because he didn't set alarm because he was counting on us and yada yada yada. So he's screaming, hollering, makes us do all these push-ups, and so we're doing push-ups. And every time I'm going down and coming back up, my whoopee is slowly starting to fall off me because these things are made out of like a silky, satiny type of material. So it wasn't long before the whole thing fell off, and I'm naked doing push-ups amongst all these other people that, because they hadn't been through military training as much as I had, they weren't taking off their uniforms, and they weren't allowing these things to dry. And a lot of these guys got like really bad foot rot, or they would get bacteria in their clothes, and they would stink like crazy. And I didn't have that problem because I would take it off and let this stuff air out. So I'm doing these push-ups naked with all these other guys. And all of a sudden, the ranger instructor stops because he sees me. But I was I was stuck. I couldn't, what am I going to do? Run up to the tree and grab my stuff, while I'm in the lean and rest. And so he looks over and he goes, "Who the hell is that?" And somebody said, "It's the SEAL." And he just walked off. So the guys can thank me in my nakedness for getting them out of a beating because the instructor was so shocked by what he saw. So that's it. Now, how's that for a war story? All right, let's go to the truth zone. I'm never going to live this down. Now, you know what? It's good that I told that story. I'll tell you why. Well, take a look at this first. Look at that right there. That is Jonathan Gillum in Officer Candidate School in action. And my good buddy Aaron Zielinski back there, a.k.a. birthmark. No, a blood clot. Sorry, Aaron. Called you the wrong word. He had a birthmark, so we called him blood clot. That's the way the military is. But that's the drive and the aggression that I had. That was before BUD/S training and before Ranger School. So, quite a difference here. Look at this. Quite a difference. So anyway. Wait, did I hit the wrong thing? There you go. So, interesting about that story. Because it shows you, even though I was joking, even though I got caught naked by the instructor, what I was doing was right. Because I was trying to stay dry. I didn't want to have the foot rot and the bacteria and the stink all over me. And I'd been taught by real warriors that when you're in the field, if you can come in from the field or if you're in a safe environment, you take off your uniform and you let it dry out. Because you can't carry in luggage when you're in war. So for all the people that are in media and in government and kissing ass and doing all these things to get themselves on TV and in positions of power, and they don't understand. They've never led people before. They don't know how easy it is to solve these governmental problems. And quite frankly, a lot of them don't want them fixed. But they don't have the understanding and training and expertise and task organization and standard operating procedures. They don't know the amount of real subject matter experts that exist in the military and in law enforcement and all these other places where people have worked and sweated and bled to learn the craft of leadership and mission success. They don't know that. So just like these other individuals that suffered from foot rot because they didn't know to let their socks air out, or they didn't know how to properly wear their boots or clean their boots or clean their uniforms. Yeah, sounds simple, but folks, there are people that die in combat or are taken out, that are taken out and weaken the force because they don't know proper hygiene. It's no different, folks, than those people that are in Washington, D.C., just like these people that leak. The saying in the Navy is, loose lips sink ships. I said that today on Newsmax. When the ship sinks, it takes down everybody with it. It's not just one person. The whole group goes down. And what's happening in our government is that these individuals and in media and all these people that say and do these different things that hurt this country, they are sinking the ship. They are breaking the Constitution. It's not just them, it's us. We are going down too, and we've been indoctrinated to allow it to happen. I say we don't allow it to happen anymore. Get your whoopies. Join me. I'm Jonathan Gillum. Old Rico over there, he's asleep. And I may joke around about a lot of this stuff, folks, but it's real. There are men and women right now, as we sit here comfortably, that are learning more about themselves and what it means to complete a mission than most people will ever know. I dedicate this show to them. I'll see you tomorrow on The Experts. I'll be there. Thank you for your donations. Thank you for joining me. The truth has arrived. So I guess we got a little guy named Asher that's on Twitter, according to Maureen. Asher, where are you? Are you watching? Is he watching, Maureen? Let's see if he's watching. How you doing, buddy? You better be really 7 and not some kind of robot. All right. Well, Asher, hello. Thank you for tuning in. You're our future. And you got the whole United States, at least the conservatives, standing with you, my friend. Good, I'm glad he's real. You promised me, Asher, you'll make the most of your life. There's people paying for your freedom so that you can grow up and pay for others. Be your best. We'll see you tomorrow on The Experts.